This month marks the 50th anniversary of the comedy western classic Blazing Saddles, written and directed by Mel Brooks and starring Cleavon Little, Gene Wilder, Harvey Korman, and Slim Pickens. So without further ado, let's get on with this review.
Hey, where are the white women at?
We'll get to all that, but first, let me just remind you that there are going to be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen Blazing Saddles yet, I suggest you watch that first before checking out the rest of this video. So with that out of the way, let's continue on. The movie starts off with Cleavon Little's character Bart working on a railroad line, and one day his boss Taggart, played by Slim Pickens, orders him to examine the line, which nearly gets him killed in a quicksand incident, and it doesn't help the fact that they care more about the equipment than his own life.
Dang, that was lucky. Doggone near lost a $400 handcart.
So naturally, he's upset about all this and decides to assault one of his bosses, and this in turn results in him getting sentenced to death by hanging. Meanwhile, Taggart goes to inform the assistant to the governor, Hetty.
It's not Hetty, it's Headley Lamar.
I'm sorry, Headley, that they can't bring the line through the intended route, so they're going to be diverting it through the town of Rockridge instead. Headley realizes once the railroad line goes through the town of Rockridge that the land is going to be very valuable, so him and Taggart scheme on how to actually drive people out of the town.
We'll kill the firstborn male child in every household.
Too Jewish.
They toss around several ideas, but eventually they decide just to have Taggart and his men basically commit a bunch of crimes in there and destroy the town in order for them to actually drive the people away.
Oh, ow! Have you ever seen such cruelty?
Instead of driving the people of the town away, they decide to write to the governor and demand that he send them a sheriff in order to take care of the crime that's going on. Since the governor is incompetent, he naturally appoints Headley to try to find a sheriff for the town of Rockridge instead. Obviously, Headley doesn't want a sheriff to take care of the crime because he's responsible for it, so instead he decides to appoint Bart as the town sheriff because he figures the people there will be upset by a black sheriff, so they'll just get rid of him themselves and he can continue on with what he's been doing. The governor isn't initially keen on the idea about appointing Bart as the sheriff of Rockridge until Headley convinces him that it'll be beneficial to his political career if he's the first governor in the country to appoint a black man as a sheriff, so the governor decides to go along with it anyway. At first, the people of Rockridge are excited to have a new sheriff for their town. They even create a big welcoming ceremony for him, but then they become hostile once they realize that the sheriff is actually a black guy.
It is my privilege to extend a laurel and hearty handshake to our new nigger.
Bart is able to get away from this situation because the people of this town are, well, not very smart.
Hold it. The next man makes a move, the nigger gets it.
Hold it, man. He's not bluffing.
Listen to him, man. He's just crazy enough to do it.
Bart makes his way to the jailhouse where he meets the character of Jim, aka the Waco Kid, a famous gunfighter played by Gene Wilder who has since become an alcoholic in his later years. Seeing as how Jim is still capable as a gunfighter, isn't immediately hostile to Bart, and is also somewhat intelligent, so Bart decides to recruit him to be his deputy. The rest of the movie involves Bart trying to establish a positive relationship with the people in order to better serve them as their sheriff, because there is a lot of existing racism in that town.
Good morning, ma'am. And isn't it a lovely morning?
Up yours, nigger.
Meanwhile, Headley and his men are trying to increase the crime to continue their plan of driving the rest of the people out. This culminates in a huge battle at the end where Headley and Taggart recruit a bunch of criminals in order to raise the town. The ensuing battle at the end between the criminals and the people of Rockridge gets so big it literally spills out from the streets of that town into backlots and other neighboring sets of the Warner Brothers studio. In the end, Bart, with the help of Jim, is able to successfully unite the people of Rockridge with some other black people that he knows in order to defend the town against Headley and his men.
All right, we'll give some land to the niggers and the chinks, but we don't want the Irish.
Following their victory in the battle, Bart and Jim are able to ride off into the sunset like every classic Western hero. One of the things that obviously gets a lot of attention with this movie is the racial humor and racial commentary, because it's handled in a way that you don't see in a lot of modern movies, because when it comes to modern movies that tackle this subject, they always try to paint the racist people as being inherently evil or something like that, or that's usually the approach they take. But this movie does something different because Bart's job is to defend the people of Rockridge, and these people are overtly racist to him at the start of the movie, but it never tries to paint them as being evil. In fact, Jim kind of defends the people of Rockridge to Bart by saying that they're just morons.
You gotta remember that these are just simple farmers. These are people of the land, the common clay of the New West. You know, morons.
Later in the movie, when Bart demonstrates to the town that he's able to take care of them, a lot of the people come around.
Sorry about the up yours, nigger. I hope this apple pie will in some small way say thank you for your ingenuity and courage in defeating that horrible Mongol.
And towards the end of the movie, they're willing to integrate with other groups in order to better defend themselves against outside threats like Headley and his men. I really like how in this movie, the racial humor is based off of stereotypes in kind of a funny way, but at the same time, it's not just relegated to white people jokes or black people jokes. They're doing stuff on other groups as well, especially the Native American scene where Mel Brooks is playing a Native American chief and they're speaking Yiddish to each other instead of speaking some Native American language. This is clearly a satire of the spaghetti westerns of the past when they would shoot western movies in Italy and they would just hire Italian people to play the Native Americans because they were a little bit darker than American white people. So they would just go with that even though they look nothing like a Native American person. And that's just one element that this satirizes when it comes to the classic western movie. Other elements are the overtly corrupt politician, the noble lawmen, and the idyllic small western town. But in this one, the small western town is filled with people who are not only overtly racist, but also just complete morons. One of my favorite elements of this movie is something that a lot of people don't talk about when discussing this movie, and that's that the politician who's providing the solution for the town by appointing Bart is also the one creating the problem for them to begin with, but he's not doing this for any noble purposes. He's doing it for completely self-serving means, kind of like how politicians nowadays create problems for the people and then demand that the people re-elect them or give them more power in order for them to actually solve said problems. I also found it strangely relevant how the governor appoints Bart to be the sheriff of Rockridge, not because he thinks he's capable of doing the job. In fact, he even overtly states that he doesn't plan on him lasting a day, but he does it anyway because he likes the idea that he can virtue signal by being the governor who appoints a black man to be sheriff, similar to how you see politicians doing something like that nowadays, or movie studios and stuff like that bring in diversity hires or race swapping things in order to try to virtue signal that they're being more progressive. If I had to nitpick this movie, though, I will say sort of near the end of the second act, it gets a little bit dull. I'm not saying there's not jokes I laughed at, but it's just not as funny as what you were seeing near the start of the movie and the stuff that you saw near the end of the movie. Other than that, though, I did have fun all around, and I have seen this movie many times over the years, and it seems like every time I watch this movie, there is a new gag or something else that I pick up on, especially as I watch more Westerns and I kind of get more familiar with a lot of the tropes. If you're a fan of classic Western movies and you want to see a good send-up of the genre, or if you're just a fan of comedy movies and you want to watch something that's a little bit less tame than the movies that are coming out these days, then I highly recommend Blazing Saddles. I've seen this so many times over the years and I'm always laughing every time I watch this movie, and that's why I'll recommend it with an 8 out of 10. But let me know what you think about this movie in the comment section below. And also, if you can, make sure you click the like button and share the video because it really helps out the channel. And if you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with more movie reviews and the latest in movie and entertainment news. Thank you.